All right, I am back with my new Outriders based haircuts, and I'm here to talk about something that I've seen come up a bit. I know that everybody, not everybody, but most people seem to be enjoying Outriders a fair amount. The game is a hit, it's doing extremely well, especially on PC, and it looks to be kind of a new looter that is getting a lot right at launch, although I keep running into some people that are not convinced, or they tried the demo, didn't like it, or they started a character and didn't like it, and they're kind of giving up before kind of pushing too far into it. And I wanted to address what I think are some of the most common things people are running into. As much as I like the game, I don't really think it does a great job of doing a few things at the very beginning, which is why I can understand why some people are turned off by it, but I want to kind of dive into each of those and give my advice in terms of like how to get past those roadblocks and at least the points I think you should play through before you're just like, okay, I give up. This isn't for me. It's not fun. Whatever. Um, we'll start with the one I see very often is a ton of people are picking Pyromancer as their first class. Pyromancer is not a bad class. It is all the classes I think are very good, and I think they can all be very viable in the end game. But Pyromancer I think starts out worse than all of them. I know people are picking it because it's like, oh, it's the fire superhero thing. Like it seems really cool, and I understand why people would gravitate toward that. So I'm seeing a lot of people pick that right away from the start because the other ones are a little hard to parse if you don't know anything about it. Like, what is a trickster? Like, what is a devastator? Like, these things don't really you can't really associate them with anything. But pyromancer, fire. I want to set things on fire. Pretty easy. The problem is the first skills you get with Pyromancer are not very intuitive, and it has the most kind of complicated-ish healing mechanic of all the classes, where Trickster and Devastator just have to kill things near them. So you will just be up close and personal with enemies, and if you kill anything near you, you heal. The end. Technomancer heals doing damage to anything with its skills, with its guns, whatever. So that's pretty easy too. Pyromancer has to like tag enemies with like its mark and then kill the marked enemies to heal. So it's a little not quite as intuitive, and I understand why Pyromancers especially are dying a lot at the beginning because you only have a scarce handful of skills and you have to like tag them with one of your abilities, then shoot them, then they die, and it's a little not intuitive. I would either do two things. I would not start with Pyromancer for one. If you don't mind just switching classes entirely, I would highly recommend if this is like you're just going into this brand new and you're just wondering what class to pick, I would go with Trickster. I think Trickster is almost impossible to not like. You get two skills right at the beginning, the slow bubble and the time knife, whatever it's called, that cuts through enemies and ages them to death instantly. Those are some of the coolest early game abilities in the game. I think the slow bubble is one of the best abilities in the game, period. And I've never heard anyone be like, they tried Trickster and they hated it. And then if you want to stay with Pyromancer, at least play through till you get Volcanic Rounds. Volcanic Grounds is I think it's the fourth or fifth skill you unlock. You couldn't get it in the demo, so I think it's the fifth. So whatever one past that is. Volcanic Grounds is like your charged ammo skill. It makes it a lot easier to do tons of damage, to heal on kill, and everything like that. So you might want to stick with the class at least until you get that skill. So that's my kind of general early Pyromancer advice. There will be so many sources of marking and burn damage eventually with a Pyromancer build that you will not really have trouble healing, and you will be doing tons and tons of damage. So just give it some time, or just switch to a new class that will be a little more intuitive right away. The next piece of advice is something I've tried to say as many times as humanly possible when I cover this game. 100% the key, any class, to enjoying Outriders is to not use cover as much as possible. Almost never. Almost on all classes. I know it's really laid out like a cover shooter. All the areas that you fight enemy human type enemies in will have chest high walls everywhere, but as you'll notice, there are not chest high walls in the beast segments, and that is because the chest high walls are for the enemies, they're not for you. The reason being is that this is really, really meant to be an action-oriented shooter. It's taking its cues from Diablo, where you're kind of always moving, always spamming skills, always attacking. And obviously, there are stupid ways to do this where you can just run headlong into battle and get swarmed and surrounded by a million enemies and die. But there are more tactical ways to do this where you kind of move around the map, take out a cluster of enemies here, cluster there, and then it's even easier if you're on a team and you can spread out and do that. If you try to play this game like it is Gears of War or The Division, where you're popping out of cover and like trying to pick at people with an assault rifle, like it's not going to go well. I'm not saying there's no point to ever use cover for any reason, but like it is really just an emergency hiding heal place for the most part. And even like I'm playing Technomancer now on Xbox and I'm pretty far in, and I'm mostly going like snipers and rifles and long range stuff. And even then I'm still not using cover. Like I might be strafing around, I might be far away, but it is generally speaking not advantageous to be popping in and out of cover. I'm just letting my turrets freeze everything for me, and then I stand in the back with a sniper and move around and headshot things. If I'm using cover, I'm kind of just like strafing around a pillar, trying to fight a boss, like throwing turrets at him, but I'm not like hiding behind something. The game will like pretty much have any enemy throw a grenade with a very wide radius if you're in cover for more than a few seconds. And I mean, sometimes you will, like there's literally an achievement killing enemies from cover, so it's not like the game never ever wants you to use it, but I would say 98% of the time, if I mean even 99, like you are almost never in cover, and if you try to play it like a traditional third-person shooter, it's not going to be very fun, and you will really only start having fun if you were playing more aggressively. In terms of kind of related to this, I've noticed some people saying that the difficulty of the game is way too high, and they keep dying, they can't get past certain sections. This is almost certainly due to their world tier being too high. And the way the game works is like you will level up your normal character XP, but at the same time, if you clear sections, you will level up your world tier. And you might, like once you get to a new world tier, the enemies bump up and like your gear drops bump up too, but unless you have like properly geared yourself up for that world tier, like you will not, be able to function very well in that situation, and you will die frequently. Especially in my first playthrough, when I was still kind of getting a hang of all the mechanics and all the skills, there were segments where I would die a ton, and I was just stubborn. Like in your XP will go down for your world tier the more you die, and like little hints will come up saying like maybe you should lower your world tier. And like I know that's obnoxious, and no one wants to like lower the difficulty, but you need to. Like this is not like a traditional game where it's like turn the thing on easy. Like if you want to get past this boss or whatever. That's not how world tiers work. Like world tiers are meant to kind of be a slow progression pushing through things. So if you're in a segment, I would say if you're dying like 4, 5, 6 times in a row in a given area, you should probably just turn the world tier down. Unless you were like, 2 enemies away from clearing the zone or something, you should turn it down. And then if you clear it, just turn it back up again, see how it goes. But what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to gear up at your current world tier, put all that gear on, get a build, and then you turn it up and you're like, okay, now I'm ready for the next world tier. If you just are sailing through the world tiers and you're not constantly upgrading your gear or learning mechanics and stuff, like you're gonna be left behind and you're gonna die a lot more often. I finished the game at like world tier 10. I know some people almost never died for in any circumstance, so they finished maybe at like world tier 14 because they never lost any XP. I know some people that finished at like world tier 6 or 7 because they died a ton or they just turned it down. All the streamers just rushed through and beat it at a very low world tier just to get to the end game. So if you just want to clear the campaign and see what the end game's like, you can turn the world tier all the way down. World tier becomes a lot less important like once the game is over, because it switches over to an entirely new system called challenge tier for the end game. So you don't really have to worry about what world tier you're finishing at. There's some stuff you can use world tier for later for farming and whatever, but that's another story. And like, just know that it is okay to turn your world tier down. Like no one's gonna think you're a wimp. Like there's no reason to be frustrated. It's fine, do that. And then probably my final piece of advice for people who want to quit or they don't like the gunplay or whatever, play at least until you get a full blue set of guns and armor. Blue is like rare quality or whatever, and that is the first type of gear you get that can have a mod in it. And your mods will be some things that directly modify all your skills. So the skills might seem kind of underpowered and you're not very strong or not very useful for a while, but as soon as you have 5 armor pieces, each of which can have a slot that modifies one of your 3 skills, all those skills get a lot more interesting and a lot more powerful. if you're running a skill without any sort of modification to it outside of rare circumstances, like it's probably not going to be that great. So in order to kind of figure out what builds look like in this game, I would get a full set of blue gear. If you dismantle extra blue gear, you get those mods, and then you can slot the mods you taken out of into your current gear. And like almost every level now, like every time I level up, I put on my new gear for higher stats, and then I put old mods in it that I've already dismantled that affect my current build. And like I know everyone's used to like games where you don't want to invest your resources too early, or like you don't want to spend too much money because you got to save it for the end game. That is not true here. Like it only costs like 100 leather or something, or 150 leather to socket a mod in something, and you will have thousands if you're just, tens of thousands if you're just dismantling stuff at a relatively normal pace to get it out of your inventory. So there is no reason to not put all the mods you want in your gear at all times. There's no reason to ever have a mod that is not directly impacting your current build. Or if you're going to change builds, you can reset your skill tree for free, you can reset your skills for free, and you can reset those mods for practically free. And I would say at the very least, until you get a blue set and play around with some of those mods and get weapons that actually do things instead of just shoot, that have special abilities, that would be very helpful. And then obviously from there, if you get a full set of epic gear, that's pretty far into the game, but you'll see even more mods. And then of course the pursuit is legendary set gear, which do really wild Diablo level modifications. So I understand it's a bit of a slow start, but that is all my advice that I can think of at the moment for new players who might be struggling. And I get why, because I played the demo. I thought certain things were a turnoff too. Also say the story gets better. I think there's some really interesting things that happen kind of about midway on through the story. So if that's just kind of ho-hum for you, I think if you stick with it, you'll be genuinely surprised by some things that happen. But that's my advice for now. I am currently, that's my Technomancer. I'm running through the campaign, and I'm at like level 23 or something. I have a level 30 max Trickster, but I've been having trouble finding games for endgame challenge tiers. And then I have my baby Pyromancer that I've been running some gameplay footage because the Steam servers have been up long enough for me to finally capture some. So hope you enjoy my signal segment I ran there, and I'm behind in my Pyromancer, but I'll be playing it as time goes on, because PC is the best way I can capture footage. I don't have my consoles set up to do that, so I will try and get him up and have some more gameplay as I talk about stuff in the future here. And this is, I think, like my 5th or 6th Outriders video in a row, which is crazy. So, and I just hit 100 videos, so that's kind of cool. So thank you all for subscribing and watching, and I wouldn't probably be doing this if you guys didn't have, a great reaction to this, and you've been really supportive, and everyone's, warning me about YouTube and the comments and stuff. You guys have all been very kind, and I really appreciate that. And so does Evie. She's fascinated by her newfound celebrity, so she says hi too. But yep, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys soon.